Hey guys, welcome back to the Attachment Point News Roundtable. My name is Brett Fulmer. I'm here with Curtis Goldsborough with National Insurance Inspection Services. They do kind of outsourced insurance inspections for companies, and also it looked like you guys had a cool app that you developed to allow, clients to do their own little preliminary inspections too. But thanks for hopping on, Curtis.
Yeah, absolutely, Brett. It's fantastic. Been wanting to do this for a while, so super stoked to talk with you.
Yeah, and we were talking before we hit record about how we had Lewis from dropping on last time, and now he's doing some really helpful claims recording via drone. And then, then Curtis's company has a new app set up where basically people can do their own property reporting, it sounds like, and kind of their own underwriting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just, as I mentioned before, as more and more of this technology just becomes more mainstream and, more accessible to anyone and everyone, and the kind of the barriers of entry just keep getting lowered. And so yeah, I mean, it's creating all kinds of new opportunities to add, efficiency to old processes and, ultimately, drive more revenue and lower costs. And I think that's what most of us are in business to do. So,
well, you usually think about like automation, like replacing jobs, but I feel like in insurance, it's almost the opposite, where you don't have enough warm bodies in the seats. So you got to figure out how to leverage technology to get the same, jobs done. And then,
yeah, absolutely.
I feel like InsurTech has always thought of this big pie in the sky, like AI, machine learning, but it's using your smartphone to get the job done instead of having to send out like a warm body. It's just something. It makes sense, and I feel like the best tools and the best answers simplify things,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I mean, it's honestly, it's kind of good timing, as I know a lot of, carriers and whatnot, and then just the industry in general, as you had alluded to, is maybe, having some struggles with, keep getting staff on board. And, I mean, obviously that's a big part of kind of, what the insurance nerds do and whatnot is, generating interest in, millennials and younger to get involved in the insurance industry. So, when there's that shortage of bodies already, if some of that slack can be taken up by technology, that's a win-win for everybody.
I think it's cool too. I mean, selfishly, I'm 34. It looked like you might be a couple of years older just by creeping on your LinkedIn about when you went to college and stuff.
Yep.
We're going to be in the game for 25, 30 plus years. And it's interesting seeing the workforce shrink and technology be able to do more and hopefully be at the forefront of implementing positive change that at the end of the day gets people protected, lowers costs, it helps communities keep turning over,
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's, the speed of evolution and how things are changing is, the momentum just keeps growing. And I always like to say, I mean, I've been out of the agent side for, I don't know, I guess coming up on 8 or 9 years now, but spent quite a few years as an agent in Michigan. And I took over a book of business from a guy who had, been at it for 40 plus years. And I just remember going through the old filing cabinets in the office, and seeing the Polaroid snapshots, and just like, how the heck did you do insurance 30 years ago? It's just so different. But like you said, I mean, I think it's changes for the better, right? And
but it's funny, that world still exists in some agencies, I bet. Like the future is now, but it's not equally distributed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still get wet signatures sometimes, go out, kind of do the whole packet, then sits on the table for a month, even after you've had it scanned into your agency management system.
Right.
Yeah. So I see definitely tech in the recording. It's funny. I thought blockchain actually for proof of insurance, and then I could also see for field data, like that'd be a good use case, like some public ledger that you place everything on. Yeah, definitely not too sure about the crypto craze, but I feel like that's a good way to use that technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many use cases, and then, I kind of go back and forth on it. Like some days I'm super excited about it and think, yeah, this is going to transform everything. And then like anytime that you have, an industry with, with a lot of competition, ultimately at the end of the day, and when you're talking about moving the industry forward by sharing information, I think that it adds roadblocks, just because it is such a competitive environment. And so, it's going to be interesting to see, like, who's willing to do what, who are going to be the movers and really the promoters of kind of, piloting some of those technologies, things like blockchain. So.
Oh, totally. Who just wants to open up their APIs? Who wants to have their APIs speak the same language?
Yep.
Helping out with Fineo come to the U.S. and a little bit different than what we're used to. They're, financial analysis kind of based insurance like term, critical illness, disability. But even just talking to those carriers, seeing if they'll open up the doors for a platform, it's a challenge, you know. And I keep looking at like what CoverWallet did. They made things easier and simpler now. You go there first, you look for an A-rated policy, and if that doesn't work, then you start filling out your accords and you go to like an all risks, for instance. But the guys who make things easier, I think, are going to be the ones who get ahead and get the quicker opportunities. And, you know, over time, you know, our peers are going to be the ones more and more kind of in the driver's seat, and those resources are going to get used more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, for sure.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I ended up, it's funny, about helping a buddy's benefit shop with the commercial insurance. And then I ended up connecting the guys out of Canada and helping them come down. And I'm around term, critical illness, and disability. It's funny, like touching the different pockets. For as hard time as we give P&C, I actually think it's a little bit ahead of the other peers. You know, it seems like they're utilizing some really cool tools. So
yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Is there anything that gets you really excited about your field, being like a former agency owner, kind of seeing what you guys are doing right now? Anything with your company coming up? Are you guys seeing the app be used a lot by your clients and really enjoy it?
Yeah, we really are. I mean, I couldn't be more excited about that. I mean, it's just gaining momentum. I kind of feel like it's kind of funny because even literally in just the last couple months, you know, when we first launched it 18 months ago, like everybody was interested. You know, I did a lot of pitches to a lot of carriers, but it was just like a little bit too early. You know, like people weren't like, everybody wanted to, you know, they wanted to know, okay, who else is doing this? We don't want to be the first adopter. You know, we want to figure out what's going on there. And now 18 months later, like all of those carriers are circling back around, you know.
Cool.
They want to get on board. So yeah, you know, lots of pilots in the works right now. We actually just finished up a pilot a couple weeks ago with a tier 1 carrier.
Cool.
And that was super, super exciting. And the most exciting part about that for me was they actually incentivized a survey for their policyholders and got really good feedback. And so, you know, they did a really good job with it and generated an NPS score of 54, which is, it just honestly kind of blew me away, you know, to see a score that high. You know, averages for SaaS being, you know, in the mid 20s, averages for the insurance industry as a whole being in the 30s. So to see that NPS of 54, it just kind of validated that, hey, you know, this product really works and the use case is perfect. So I think it's just going to continue to, you know, to gain steam and momentum. And like anything, you know, any new technologies we talked about, there's hiccups, you know, there's some roadblocks, there's challenges to it. But ultimately, I think that I think it's a winner. I think it's going to become very commonplace because there just are so many positives.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So National Insurance Inspection Services goes out, checks out the property inside, outside, records the data, kind of some frontline underwriting. Sounds like for the agents and the carriers. And then your new app is like a step-by-step, you know, doing it for yourself on the mobile as opposed to having like an actual warm body out there.
Yep, exactly. So, you know, new policyholder, you know, fills out an application with an agent online, whatever, you know, the distribution model is that they're going through. You know, right at the point of sale, they can opt in. Do you want to complete your own, you know, survey of your own property, or do you want to have a inspector, you know, boots on the ground, knocking on your door, you know, within a week? What we're finding is a lot of people, you know, we're getting a lot of people that would prefer to do it themselves.
Oh, totally.
For, you know, for a myriad of different reasons, you know. You know, who wants a stranger walking around their property taking photos, right?
Well, even the time thing, and like we became so programmed, you know, we expect the Uber to be there when they're there. We expect Google Maps to give us the right delivery time. You know, if you have to wait for a 4-hour window for an inspector to show up, you know, or you could just go out and snap a couple pictures yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
It's interesting that you said there wasn't a great uptake a year and a half ago, and then people are interested now. I felt like when I first started paying attention in insurance, InsurTech was seen as like the enemy like 2.5 years ago. And I'd been around a data visualization startup before. I've been around a few things in tech. I was like, I think this is more of like a inevitable commingling. I don't see it as a bad thing. But InsurTech Connect last year, I felt like was the first time InsurTech was seen as like a positive, and it wasn't looked at as like an enemy anymore. I think maybe when Lemonade sort of brought on brokers too, there's a little bit of like a mutual need that kind of started to surface, you know. But and I get why I kind of didn't care, and I saw it as a good opportunity. I have nothing to lose. I'm new, you know. If anything, I'm looking for a foothold and to make something happen. But if you're protecting your pyramid that you've had forever, and the way it's done is changing, you know, I could see that being a stressful thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I think it was only like 9 or 10 months ago InsurTech started being seen as a positive.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And, the momentum just continues to grow.
Mhm.
But it's definitely a good direction. So yeah, that's been kind of my primary focus
Mhm.
here, and what we've really been focused on. The only other thing besides that, actually, just this week, we just launched a brand new product, a comprehensive wildfire inspection,
Oh, wow.
which has been, really, really lacking kind of in as far as on the underwriting side.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of good options in terms of a really comprehensive boots on the ground assessment.
You just have your zone maps, fire zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's almost like an arbitrary, thing that they set once every couple of years. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And what has happened is, with the cat losses, specifically
Mhm.
here in California, just over
Yeah.
a couple of years,
Uh,
I think it's been an eye opener for, I know a lot of carriers. That I looked at the data not long after when it first came out after the Camp Fire, and, to see all of the hits that carriers were taking,
Yeah.
and, $12.5 billion of insured losses, in total. So, that's causing a lot of carriers to take a long, hard look. Obviously there's been tons of carriers just pulling out of those areas altogether, moratoriums on new business, et cetera. Really leaving a lot of policyholders in a lurch.
You got to find the
California
carriers
Fair
that.
Plan, yeah, Fair Plan might be your only option, and then, DOC policy, and, blah, 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 or just not being able to afford it, period. So, anyway, we kind of saw the need, and honestly, it wasn't our idea. It was, some of our clients coming to us and saying, hey guys, we need to do a more
Mhm.
comprehensive assessment, in order for us to get our foot back in the door. And then, and in conjunction with that, there are some really cool, new startup MGAs that are specifically, they're saying, hey, we're going to capitalize on this opportunity. These cat fire losses have really created a vacuum in some pretty large areas, in California and other states, where it's very difficult for people to get a policy placed. So
That's totally where Nick would go in. Too bad. I'll check the phone, see if he's jumping in. But yeah, Nick would be all about kind of if something got hit, hop in there.
right, yeah. So there's some new MGAs making some E&S plays to go into those markets, and those were the ones that really came to us initially and said, hey, we're going to be writing a ton of business here, but we have to be able to to underwrite and rate it appropriately. So
Yeah. And kind of, he just texted you, got tied up. What they're doing, which is interesting, and kind of, I feel like along the lines of what you're talking about, is looking at the actual foundation of the building, looking at it point by point, as opposed to like a broad brush that we were doing before. And it is interesting how, like, we're just gonna be able to get more granular with the data. We're gonna be able to get more specific. You have a company like Hazard Hub,
Yep.
they're going to be able to read off multiple issues, to you.
Yep.
And then probably asking an obvious question, but do you feel people are talking more, they're integrating systems more, they're opening the doors, saving money, writing better risk, it seems like, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we worked, I think, folks like, Hazard Hub, Red Zone, you've got kind of the more traditional Fireline and whatnot that's been around for a long time. But I think it's just it's a matter of kind of taking a holistic approach to it, right? Because yeah, you can get some super valuable, third-party data sets, like as you had alluded to earlier. But those they're just not granular enough. That's not a property specific assessment. Right. It's just, hey, is it within this zone? Yes, it is. Then we're going to give it this score. But those that doesn't
almost go and you clean it up once you're in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's where, and more data is coming out. We've worked with information from Cal Fire on this product. Wildfire Partners in Colorado is a fantastic group, and they've got a lot of partnerships with a lot of carriers. But just really primarily on the educational front, mm-hmm. in terms of wildfire mitigation. And it just, if you look at Wildfire Partners, check out their website, wildfirepartners.org. They have just a fantastic program there that really focuses on mitigation education, and then ties it into the insurance realm, which you can get, certified through Wildfire Partners, and then, carriers guarantee that That's they won't non-renew you, et cetera. So, but there really are, this has been a learning experience for us as well, as we've been going through this process, just to understand all of the mitigation steps that you can take, like it's not just it's not just up to chance, you know?
Yeah.
So
The sprinklers on your roof, is that what we're talking about? Or like a sprinkler around the perimeter of your property? There's like a few things that look not too involved that seem like they could do a ton of help to protect a property.
yeah, absolutely. And some of the things are not even that, not that extensive in terms of, just a barrier of entry from a cost perspective and installation and whatnot. But just, I mean, when they, the facts, if you look at IBHS as well, they've got some fantastic research on this in terms of, wildfire characteristics and whatnot. And, their data shows that 90% of houses that are destroyed in wildfires are ignited by embers, flying embers. They're not ignited by direct flame contact.
That's crazy.
So
yeah.
That's a huge part of mitigation. Your crawl space vents, your eave vents, soffit vents, do you have 1/4 inch mesh? If you've got 1/4 inch mesh over those vents, which is pretty standard and has been forever, that's not going to prevent embers from getting into your attic or into your crawl space and ignite your house
insulation going.
Inside. Yeah. And it's just, so simple things like that are, can have a huge impact. And make all the difference. And then obviously, defensible space zones that have been around for quite some time. But when you look and see, even up in Paradise, I went up there last month to some research and shoot some video and whatnot. And it's amazing even there to see examples of, basically every single house in a community completely destroyed, but there's 2 or 3 left standing. Well, there's no explanation. Except that, hey, some of these mitigation efforts do make all the difference in the world.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's those little fractismal things. And then, not super interesting. How did you find yourself on this side of the business as opposed to the agency? Did you see like the huge opportunity in kind of the research, the data?
I mean, it's kind of an interesting evolution for me as it is for most people. And believe it or not, when I, as an agent in Michigan, and then moving to California, I was actually planning on moving out of the insurance game altogether.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And then I kind of, I kind of fell back into it, and I don't regret it though. It's exciting.
It's a cool industry. I mean, you made a rap song about it, You get the love for it. That was really well done. It was cool, just the history of it, and I appreciate our tribe. I mean, it's crazy. It's a $7 trillion industry that's only been around for a couple hundred years. It's relatively new for all that it encompasses, and I like the challenge of it. I always joke there's very few things you can actually do a genuine good and make a lot of money. So it's kind of cool to find something that can, line up with both of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but yeah, the way I got into it was I was just trying to figure out where office moves were going to be. I had an old corporate relocation job and I got the P&C license, ensure the spaces, and, it just looked better from, looked like a better industry. So it was kind of a weird roundabout way to get started,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, one little personal lines job with the ability to sell commercial, 2 goofy sales jobs after that, and then just decided to do my own thing, then partner with a buddy, got the consulting thing. And it's just weird. It's interesting all the little rabbit trails you can go down in this industry too. It's not one thing, Yeah,
absolutely. It's almost like, regardless of your background, like you can find something that you're probably passionate about, within the industry and really go after it and be successful with it. So
heck yeah. No, I think it's really fun. But yeah, you got the research, you got the actuarial side, you have your side, which is like the data for what's actually going out there. You have the person selling the policy, the people underwriting the policy, the people backing them up, I don't know. It's super interesting. I do think, Fineo's whole premise is going to be being bionic, sort of using smart engines, easier places to kind of onboard the data with the client, but then still like helping an actual agent go out there because you need the warm body. One of the few industries where I think we're going to protect the workforce. You're going to be able to automate some of it, but I feel like you're going to need a human to kind of hold people's hands through difficult decisions, difficult times for a long time coming. As much as, I even joked around about that article about automatically sending out Ubers and taking people to Airbnbs and whatever else,
Right.
Somebody reminded me pretty quick, you're still going to want that phone call from the human saying, hey, we have you covered, and I think
I saw that conversation. I thought, it's really intriguing. It's intriguing and but it makes a lot of sense. And 2, I also think that, just obviously generational changes are happening. And I think those have to be taken into consideration as well, that, the kind of our generation and younger, we react to things. We have different preferences when it comes to customer experience and whatnot than maybe our parents or certainly our grandparents would. So, I think that those things are evolving as well as the technology evolves.
Do you, no, absolutely. Kind of a weird thing that was tied back to that conversation. I had a conversation with Chris Franklin about that a while ago. Parametric insurance and the idea of triggering event, I think, is going to be a lot more common going forward too. So you don't worry about the claim. There's not that lag time, whatever else, but if X happens, you get X. Kind of reminds me of critical illness insurance, where you get like a lump sum to kind of help you through that year or whatever that period of time is going to be. But
yeah, no, I'm really curious to see how that plays out. And I know, there's quite a few companies that are jumping into that space on the, earthquake side, or even I was reading about one this morning on the flood side.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think that was US based, but yeah, it's a really interesting concept. So to me, that's one of those things where I feel like super cool, but it remains to be seen, is this really going to take off? Is it really going to, is it going to work, or is it going to be kind of, a bright, shiny object that fades away, but who knows? Or
somehow they'll meld together. Yeah, for me, I want to go after the new and interesting. And when I decided to do my own thing, I was chasing like cannabis and cyber insurance for a little bit. My friend's like, dummy, like stop trying to sell things that people don't have to buy and aren't sure about yet. Like go sell things that are easy quote, easy to buy and that people need today. And I was like, okay,
right.
Fair enough. Backtrack a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other funny thing was, so my only full-time job was personal lines, but I had a lot of commercial sales. I was like, I like commercial sales more than selling business to consumer. I'll just go try to sell commercial insurance. I didn't realize how sticky that was, how hard that was to work on, how slow that life cycle was of those sales.
Mm-hmm.
It was super interesting. So yeah, now working through my buddy's office and then still doing some personal lines on my own, but just getting some reps there. What was the focus of your agency? Was there anything you really hung your hat on over there?
Yeah, when I was doing that, I was a captive agent with Farm Bureau Insurance in Michigan. So, a little bit of a different world on the captive side, but, I honestly kind of found my niche with commercial insurance and literally for houses of worship, for churches.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That kind of became my thing that I niched in on. And
that's cool.
It started with, writing my own church, the church that I attended.
Very
and, cool. Obviously, like when you start out, right, you write friends and family and people that you know. And so, so I got with my pastor and we looked at the policy, and then that gave me a little bit of confidence that, hey, I can write some commercial stuff. And we had really good rates at the time with a good church program. And
that's cool.
And I developed a great relationship with the underwriter in that regard. And he just let me go after it. And so, I don't remember. I wrote a ton of churches over that 5-year time period, and that was kind of my thing.
Get rich in your niche, as they say. So for the church, is there like an event component to that? Is there like a business auto component to that? I feel like a church, I've never thought about it, but it could be kind of involved. There's like restaurant equipment, I'm sure sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the size,
yeah.
The size of the church. But yeah, I mean, it spans the gamut. Most of them are going to have business auto along with that.
Yeah.
Directors and officers, can play into that as well. Sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Good think about that.
So yeah, some of those can be some pretty big accounts.
There's a nice agency that just has a reference to church. It's kind of funny about local P&C, when you can tell specializes in churches. And, as I was riffing on those things, I'm thinking of like the Orange County, Southern California, like mega churches, those
right.
Some beefy policies. That's funny.
Yeah, for sure.
But any other bold tech predictions you want to make for the insurance industry? Anything interesting you see kind of on the horizon, or just a little bit more of the FAR and the old school coming together?
Yeah, probably, a little bit more. I don't know. It's like I told you before, I just feel like it's almost impossible to keep track of everything that's going on. And like I come into work in the morning and I have to intentionally not look at LinkedIn because I'll get sucked into reading stories and all the latest and greatest, for half of the day. But yeah, no, it's exciting to see where it's going and to see the kind of I guess we call ourselves the younger generation,
No, we're, and I think we're even in an interesting spot because we're not even like the new anymore. We're kind of that that second round that's kind of been around for maybe 10 years. For me, I've been licensed for 6, but my trick is I try not to actually pay attention to the industry too much. I try to pay attention to it a little bit, but I feel like by watching other stuff, you get an idea of things you can kind of add to the pile.
Right.
So it's my little hack, I guess, but it's fun, and it's interesting to see what works in theory versus reality, like you can have all the forms you want on your website for people to fill out, but you usually have to drag them through the process. There's a lot of things, to be determined how they're going to shake out, so yeah, I think the warm bodies are safe for a while. We're just going to have to figure out how to use technology to make their reach a little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Cool, sir. Well, I don't want to hold you too long today. I know we got to get back to work and make things happen on a Thursday. But I appreciate taking a couple minutes and rapping about what we see coming down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Always great to chat, Brett.
Cool. Thanks, Curtis. Bye.
Yep.